What's good, y'all? Hope everybody's living well and staying blessed. It's your boy Marcus B. I'm not with new guy Chris and Mr. Evan Simmons. We're doing another Zoom podcast because we're on break, and everybody's schedules are a little bit different. And so, just to make it simple, I'm doing this solo. So today, I sat down with my boy Michael Lehmann. We went to school together at Texas State. He is currently a high school band director outside of Houston, and we talk about his marriage uh, and everything that's came with that, his relationship with his wife that has started from back in high school and where they're at right now. We talk about his time in uh, at Texas State, his time marching drum corps, things that he learned, he picked up from there. And then we talk about just teaching philosophy and things that he cares about, things that he's learned and things that he's gained over the years. Not only teaching, but then things that a lot of us have been forced to get better at with the way this year is becoming. This year has not becoming, but laid out. Anyways, it's a great episode. It's a great conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and share with all your homies. Because that's the only way this message gets out to even more people. We're chilling at 128 people on YouTube, and shout out to all you guys. We really appreciate all the love and support. But like I've said before, I just want to help people. And I want to get this out to as many people as possible. So the only way that happens is if you guys help me out with that. So I appreciate you guys being on the ride with us thus far. We're just going to keep going as we go into 2021 to do this new year and see what happens. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Peace.
Awesome.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Well as well. It's always a weird sentence.
Good.
Well as well. Is that correct? Well as well.
I think so. Yeah.
um,
I'm kind of a stickler sometimes about grammar
dude,
to a fault a little bit.
I am too, but then also the issue is like growing up with a speech impediment and just dealing with that throughout my life. That's partially why I'm a stickler for it. It's because the only way I could talk correctly is if I talk correctly, right? So if ever
Right.
if I
Yeah.
throw in slang or slurs, stuff like that, the vernacular just gets super spread out and I am unable to talk. It's great. Anyways,
Yeah. I mean, be ready for me to mispronounce 5 things here.
oh, that's all that ever happens on here, bro. I have a talk show and I can't talk. It's a great. Anyways, go ahead and tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what you do, your deepest, darkest secret, and anything else you want
Who
to
I
share.
am, where I'm from, what I do, my deepest, darkest secret. And Marissa really enjoyed that deepest, darkest secret thing. My name is Michael Lehmann, and I am from San Antonio, born and raised, and went to Judson High School. Had a great time there. Met my wife, and got married right after college. Went to Texas State. We were there at the same time. And let's see, what do? I'm a band director. That's occupies most of my time. I love it. And
High school, right?
deepest darkest secret. Do what?
You're at high school, right?
Yep, high school.
High
High
school.
school band
Okay.
director.
Right on.
Yep. So
All
we
right.
do
So
the
deepest,
marching
darkest
band
secret.
thing and maybe sometimes a jazz band at some point. Deepest darkest secret. I have 4 names. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Okay. Well, what are your 4 names?
William Michael Anthony Lehman.
William Michael
So
Anthony.
all of those have a meaning too.
Okay. What's the meanings?
Well, I guess not one of them doesn't, but William was my grandfather's first name. And
Okay.
it still is. I mean, he's still around, but it's like his family tradition to be named William and go by your second name. So his first name is William, but he goes by Pat, and so I go by Michael because that's just what the normal thing is. I don't know if everybody called me Jerk growing up, I would go by Jerk. I would answer that. And then the Michael was his name before he was adopted. And so like
Okay.
they're really big on, supporting that kind of stuff. And so my mom was like, well, I'll name him after my dad. And so that kind of thing worked out. And then she just liked Anthony. So she threw it in there. Not a big backstory to that, but
Just enjoy
now
the
I
name.
get to every time I'm filling out a form. Yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, tell me your first name and your middle name. It's like, okay, what do I put here? Do I put William Michael Anthony or William Michael Anthony? I still haven't figured it out yet. I still do something different every time.
Keep all these businesses on their toes, man. I dig it. All right.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. No, it's hard to track me.
okay. So I know that we met back at Texas State as most of the people that have been on. I've met them through being at school for as long as I was, made a bunch of friends. Talk about your time at Texas State, things you did, what you learned, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy.
Oh, dude, man, I didn't want to go to Texas State originally.
Really?
I was kind of, yeah, man. It was weird. It was a weird story. I
Okay.
was
Let's get into
horribly
it.
uneducated going to college, and I was just a kid who knew I wanted to be a band director, and I knew UNT had a good music school. I was
Yeah.
like, man, I'm gonna go to UNT, and that's what I told everybody. And I didn't know anything about the application process or submitting an audition, and I was not that good of a trumpet player. I mean, I made all state, but I had a lot of problems,
Yeah.
and
Did you really
so
make Outstate?
it was
I
just
didn't know that. That's
weird.
awesome.
I did, yeah. And but I wasn't ever happy with the way I was playing. It was like, oh, I can't play high and I can't play for long or whatever. We'll skip all that. But uh, I didn't apply to Texas State until like February, right
Really?
before
Wow.
February, but
Okay.
of my senior year. And I had originally applied to UNT,
Okay.
Baylor, and U of H. And so like UNT, I knew was a really good music school. Baylor, I knew had a really good trumpet studio,
Yeah.
and U of H, I just heard a lot of really good things about.
Yeah.
And
I mean, all
so
solid schools for
that's what I
sure.
was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my
Okay.
high school band director had gone to Texas State, and he was like, "Hey, I think you should think about going to Texas State." He didn't outright tell me, and of course it was my decision. And then we had a student teacher my senior year named Mr. Salinas, and he was from Texas State. He was like, "Hey, I really think you would like going to Texas State." I was like, "No," like something turned me off about it. I didn't know what it was. Maybe it was too close, or I knew too many people who were going there, and I wanted to do that. Plus, Marissa, who was my high school girlfriend, now wife, was going to Baylor. So I was like, "Well, I'm going to go to Baylor. I'm going to
Yeah.
go to college with my girlfriend, and be a part of that trumpet studio." Well, I didn't get accepted to Baylor, and the music school,
Yeah.
and I didn't get accepted to UNT's trumpet studio, and I did get accepted to U of H, but something I just didn't feel like going to U of H. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have a reason for that. Not like I was super educated on it. And
Just wasn't
so
feeling it.
yeah. And so I was like, well, you know what? I already did my Apply Texas. I'm gonna turn everything into Texas State. And so I went up there and auditioned, and Dr. Winking actually wasn't there when I auditioned. He was somewhere. I don't know where he was. He was somewhere else. And
Okay.
I did like the last audition day. It was in March, and Mr. Lawmer, and I don't remember if Dr. Cannon was there, but it was him and somebody else,
Had to have
and
been.
they had
Yeah.
a video up for me, and like they videoed my audition to
Really?
show to Dr. Winking, yeah. And so it was weird, man. Like I went in there and I did the oral thing
Yeah.
and the piano test and played my instrument, and I knew all my scales and played the Haydn trumpet concerto, even though I probably shouldn't have been playing it because it wasn't. It was all right for most of it, but
Yeah.
there were some tricky parts that I really couldn't master. And then I got accepted, and I was like, all right, well, guess I'm going to Texas State. And then everything kind of just happened to me, man. And I think that's a big theme with me. Like everything kind of just happened. I just happened to meet my wife on the first day of band camp my freshman year of high school. And then we didn't start dating until senior year, so it took her a while to
Okay.
come around.
I never actually asked you about your relationship with Marissa and how that came about. So you guys, so she's straight up the same age as you as well.
Yes, it was. We
Okay.
went to. I mean, we had the same geometry class of freshman year, and I still remember like turning around and looking at her and like smiling and like being a goofy high school kid and being like, "Oh, look, it's Marissa." And her last name was Longfoot. My last name was Lehmann, so we were right next to each other, and we had the same testing room, and you know,
So
it
you
was.
guys were just kind of always together by again happenstance.
Yep,
Okay.
I was happy with it. I was just like, "Oh, look, it's Marissa." Like,
So then you said it took until senior year for you guys to actually start dating?
yeah, I mean, we had a brief period of relationship at the beginning of our sophomore year. It was
Okay.
like kind of weird because I guess she kind of started liking me at the end of our freshman year, and we would like write notes back and forth to each other. And so she wrote me a note on like the last day of school, like, "Oh yeah, I think you're kind of cool," and like kind of dancing around the subject. And so when we came back, it was like, "Hey, I'm really happy to see you. I didn't talk to you all summer because I didn't have a phone at that point in time."
Yeah.
And and so it was like, I think I might have written her a letter. Did I write you a letter? I wrote her a letter. Did I mail it to you? Oh my god, dude, is this the like 1900s? But
Super corny, but also super adorable. I
yeah, it
dig
was
it.
great. I used to do romantic things, and she tells me that I used to do romantic things. We'll see if I can keep that up. But
Hey man, got time.
and then we were in band together, and she was the French horn section leader. I was the trumpet section leader, and it was super cute. I guess it worked out pretty well. She's dying over there laughing.
Yeah.
We did the long distance thing in college. That was kind of tough.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to touch on next. And I mean, we'll talk about the band stuff, but this has always interested me because you guys got married at 23,
I was 22, and were you
22.
21 when we got married? Yeah, she was 21.
Yeah, that's just that idea is just bananas to me. Like I could not imagine A being married that young, but like B coming to terms with like getting married, like
Yeah.
how did when was that decision made like in your mind? Like, yeah, she's the one, it's going down. Let's
I
get it.
mean, she's the one decision. I don't think I ever like sat down and just thought about it.
Okay.
But I always kind of like, I don't know, I always kind of knew.
Really?
I tried yeah, because we didn't date until our senior year. So I tried moving on in high school,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I was also an immature teenage kid, so I wasn't very good at it. But I always just ended up coming back to her, and I was always drawn to her. And it just speaks to her allure and wonderful personality. She's cracking up right now. But
And just to be clear,
um,
like you keep looking off camera, she's like right next to
yep,
you, I
she
assume.
is. No, she's over there on the couch. I'm in the dining room of my mother-in-law's house. So it's fun.
Gotcha. Okay. So did you, between sophomore year when it was like kind of maybe and senior year when you guys did get together, did you date like other people or was it
Yeah, yeah. I
okay?
she did, and she had actually like real relationships. I think I went on one date with a girl, and I screwed it up horribly.
Oh
And
boy.
so
Well
that
done.
was like a one day thing. I think I also had like a week-long relationship with a girl from my church.
Okay.
And
A week long? That's
a
it?
week long, yeah, dude. I'm really, really knocking it out of the park here. And then I don't know. I would like. I think there was one year I like asked some girl on a Valentine's Day date and got rejected or something, and I was like, oh no, and whatever. But it wasn't a super big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think I really ever dated anybody else, like a long
Like
term or
full-blown
anything like
relationship.
that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So then you guys get together senior year and then immediate turnaround from the first year, you guys both go start college at separate schools, and then for 4 years you're doing the long distance thing.
Yeah. She didn't have a car for quite a while. So it was me driving up to Baylor
Okay.
sometimes, or we'd get together around like Christmas break here in San Antonio. We'd
Yeah.
both be home for everything, but it's not like we could get together a lot. We were still spending time with our families, and we weren't mingling that much with the families. And so, I'd come over and visit every now and then, and she'd come over and visit. And then over the summer, I was marching drum corps. So it was like
Yeah.
I'm gone most of the time. So
Yeah, and again, all this is what's just kind of blows my mind. And like shout out to your relationship for like making it through all that. But then to just be like, all right, I'm done with school, let's get married. It's not even like let's like, all right, we're done with school, let's move in, see if we're really feeling this. Maybe in a year we might propose. But no, you proposed like your sophomore year, junior year.
I proposed in December of 2016. So that was junior year, first semester of our
Yeah.
junior year of college.
Okay.
And so
And then what? It was about a year turnaround before the
it was a
marriage,
year
right?
and a half.
Year and a
Yeah.
half. Yeah.
Because we got
Okay.
married in May.
That's right. Okay. And again, so you're just halfway through junior year, and you're like, barely spend any time with this girl, but we're gonna get married.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always enjoyed the time I spent with her,
Yeah.
It was,
I mean, I'm not trying to like deter any way or like impose any like bad thoughts on it. That just
no, for
blows my
sure. Yeah.
mind that you guys were so, I don't want to say comfortable. I just can't think of a better
We were
term.
very comfortable. I mean, we still are, but it's like we've known each other for like 10 years now. And I think
Damn.
she's known me longer for anybody else other than my family, I guess. And then I talk to her way more than I talk to my family. So, I
Okay.
mean, it's like we're each other's number one person.
Yeah. That's dope, man. That's
We had talked about, hey, we're gonna. Of course, it was like at some point it was like, of course we're gonna get married. Yeah, when we get married, we're gonna do this. When we get married, we're gonna do this. She thought I was gonna propose to her the spring break after I actually did propose.
okay.
So it was kind of nice. I took her downtown, and we like had a thing where we went downtown every year in San Antonio and looked at all the
Okay.
lights over the Riverwalk.
Oh, dude, downtown Riverwalk is so beautiful. I'm really angry
Yeah,
that I don't get to go down there this year.
yeah.
Like, this is
I
actually,
mean, it was great, man. And we went to Paisanos on the Riverwalk because we had also gone to Paisanos right before prom, or when we
nice.
were in high school, which was tasty, delicious. And I called ahead and told them, like, "Hey, I'm proposing tonight." And that guy, I just want to say that is the best service I have ever received in my life. Like that guy,
He was just
I
killing it.
swear, we sat down, we got our water. I took like a sip of water, we had our bread. The moment I finished my slice of bread, we had our food. It was just crazy fast.
Just
And I
the
gave that guy like a huge tip. Yeah.
dude was just crazy on top of it. Hell yeah.
He was almost aggressive, but not imposing. It was a great experience.
That's
If
awesome.
I can be that good, as good as he was that night at anything in my life, I think I've made it.
Hey,
But
always the goal. So
yeah.
then, actually, I get to ask you a similar question because the last gentleman I had on, Max Carney, he just got engaged. So you're at Paisanos. How do you ask the question?
Well, I don't know if you remember Hector Sellers,
Yeah.
but he went to high school with us too. He was a senior my freshman year of high school. So I kind of knew him and I knew he did photography.
Okay.
And so I was texting him the whole night. I was like, "Hey, we're at Paisanos." He was our engagement photographer. And so I was
Nice.
texting him the whole night like, "Hey, we're going to we're eating dinner now and we're going to get dessert and then we're going to head over there." And the plan was to propose at the big Christmas tree right in front of the Alamo.
Nice.
And
Okay.
and so,
Damn. Super romantic.
she was like, "Who are you texting?" And like, "What's going on?" And then I had the ring in my pocket too. And at one point, she put her hand in my pocket. I was like, "Whoa!" Like, all right, we're gonna move the ring. And it was just a couple awkward moments too. And she almost got mad at me there for a second because I kept like texting Hector. And she's like, "Who are you texting?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Nobody, don't worry about it." And she wanted to know. She was like,
Yeah.
"What's going on?" And so for me to just brush her off, she was like, "What's going on?" And so I was like, "Hey, let's get ice cream." So we went down the Riverwalk, got some ice cream, and it was San Antonio, it's not that cold.
Yeah.
And and then we went to the Alamo, and we stood in front of the Christmas tree, and it was off. And we were standing there, and it's like, all right.
Oh my
And she was
God, are
like,
you
man, it's so
serious?
disappointing. I wish, yeah. She's like, I wish the Christmas tree was working. I was like, yeah, it's so disappointing. And then it turned on, like started, like there was a light show, and I guess they like
Really?
do some sort of light show
Oh,
every now and then.
okay.
And I've still got the pictures right as that started. Like, we were just standing there watching it, and I got down on one knee and proposed to her, and she totally didn't expect it. She knew I was gonna propose at some point,
Yeah.
but I mean, she just didn't see it coming at that time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she was crying, and there was like a group of people kind of formed around us and started clapping, and we got photobombed by some kid, like in the background. He was like, like he looked really happy. But I mean, it was a cool experience, and she, I mean, obviously she said yes because
Yeah.
we ended up getting married. So
Did you just give the stock will you marry me line, or was there some like internal flair that like was part of y'all's relationship that you sprinkled on top? Like,
I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I was standing there holding her, and I just said, "I love you so much," and then I got down on one knee and asked if she would marry me.
okay, so just
Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
straight up to the point. I dig it. Okay.
Yeah, just
Um,
straight to the point, and then
and then that's cool, man. And then so then you guys get married after y'all graduate,
mhm.
and then immediately you move to Houston. you
Mhm.
and you were like, I have to get a job in Houston because my wife
Yeah.
is going to school out there. And like how stressful was that? Like knowing that you had to find this place in or around Houston to teach at.
Yeah, that was fun, man. That was fun because we knew around January, I think, that she was going to go to UTMB in
Okay.
Galveston. And so it was like, okay, we're either going to live in Galveston or live north of Galveston, like halfway between wherever I work and she goes to school. And so I interviewed in Cyfair,
Oh geez.
and
Okay.
that would have been a long drive. And I
Yeah.
interviewed like New Caney, way north of Houston. I was just like, you know what? If it's an hour and a half drive to work every day, I'll make it work because it's a job. And I mean, I was getting out of college. I was like,
Yeah,
a job's a job. It's more than not a job.
for sure.
And then, the Vista Ridge job had just opened up, and I was just like, ooh, I could apply there, and then she could live down there, and I'll live in North Austin with some friends or something, and so I applied there. I didn't get an interview or anything, but I actually ended up meeting my fine arts director at TMEA,
Okay.
and I sat down at the job interview practice session, and I looked at his name tag, and I said, wow, you have a job opening, and I said, I am interested in moving to your area. And so we went through the practice session, and he
Yeah.
kind of gave us some tips on interviewing, and I me, I wrote everything down,
Yeah.
and then I walked up to him afterward, and I said, hey, thank you, I'm really interested, and it's nice to meet you. And then I saw him at the job fair later that night, or you know what, at that moment I said, could you take a look at my resume and just let me know what you want to see on it? And so he took a look, and he said, well, I would take this off, and I would highlight this and add that. So I went home after TMEA that night and made those changes.
Yeah.
And I had my other version of my resume and the version he wanted.
Nice.
And I printed it out. And then at the job fair, I gave it to him. I said, hey, here are the changes you told me to make. And I guess that impressed him that, like, I did what I was told. And so it kind of, I mean, then he knew me when he called me for an interview.
For
You know what
sure.
I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was really, like I said, so many things have happened to me that have just been lucky. I won't say lucky, like, and I'm not crazy religious or anything, but I do think that God has helped me out with that, with a
Amen.
lot of things.
Yeah. I dig it.
But
So then
yeah,
did you
and so
pick up the job at Team EA?
no, he,
No.
I told him, and he said, hey, I want you to apply, and go through the process. And so I
Okay.
applied and went through the process. And I was nervous. I applied for I had a big spreadsheet of all the jobs I could feasibly approach, and some of them were a little more attractive than others. And I was really scared, honestly, because around mid-April I still hadn't gotten any interviews. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was just super nervous. And I got a call, and he was like, hey, we want to interview you at 1 p.m. And it's kind of funny because he said, hey, I want to interview you at 1 p.m. And so come down and we'll do that. And it was on the same day as an interview with another district in Houston. So I was like, cool, I'll drive down to Houston, stay with my grandparents, and then, do one in the morning, one in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And then he also called Matt Wood.
Really?
And yeah, and he said, hey, we want to interview you at 1 p.m. And I don't know if there was confusion with the time slot or and the way Matt told me is, he said when they were on the phone, Matt was like, he told Matt, he was like, yeah, you're the one whose wife is going to school down here, right? And Matt goes, no, that was Michael Lehmann. He goes, oh, okay, cool. Well, we'll see you on May 1st at 1 p.m. I was like, okay. And so Matt and I drove to the interview for the same job together. We went together. We carpooled to the same interview. And when he sees me and Matt sitting there, he was like, hey, you guys know each other? And we were like, yes, sir. We drove here together. He goes, that's weird. Hey, we both want a job, and we showed up together, and it was weird. But I mean, it worked out the way it worked out, and I
Yeah.
think Matt's definitely happy with where he is now and
Yeah,
the
man.
path he's been on.
I think he definitely landed on the gig that he wanted,
Yeah.
and I'm definitely happy he's at where he's at. Shout out to Matt Wood. And so then you get this job, and just huge sigh of relief.
Oh,
I
yes.
imagine.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, and I mean, just knowing that I would have a 30-minute drive to work, and
Yeah.
I was at a 6A high school, and the director there, it's weird, man. Weird stuff kept happening. So I got married, and so I was offered the job, but I hadn't signed my contract yet. And so we got married in May, at the end of May on Memorial Day, because Mondays are cheaper for venues. Just keep that in mind. And
Good to
so
know. I'll keep that in mind for whenever I may get married.
yeah, I mean, so we got married on Monday, and then I kind of took Tuesday off, and then Wednesday rolls around, and I was like, all right, well, I have a job now, so I need to contact my new head director, who I interviewed with,
Yeah.
and say hey, I'm ready to work. I just finished everything with my wedding. My wife and I are at my apartment. We're gonna move down in July. What can I do to get started? And he replied, I won't be returning next year due to some health issues.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, oh, all right. So there are going to be 2 new directors now. Okay. And so I emailed my fine arts director, and I was like, hey, what do I need to do? And he said, stay put for now. He's like, I have your show music for you, and I'll get you in contact with the percussion director. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so the percussion director, there wasn't much he could do to tell me in the
Yeah.
time that I had. So he sent hey, here's a list of all the students, and here's how you access charms, and then we'll get going. I was like, all right. And I couldn't do much because I hadn't signed a contract yet, so I couldn't
Yeah.
I didn't have a badge. I couldn't go in the building or anything. So we had a meeting with my new head director in early July. And he was sitting down, and he was like, yeah, well, we need to do this and this. And I had my notebook there, and I was writing down all this. And he was like, yeah, I went to U of H with Mr. Green. And the moment I heard him say that, I was like, yes, I'm so relieved and comfy. It says my internet connection is unstable.
Hey,
Can you still hear me?
the audio's always coming through, but every now and then the video gets a little spotty, but it's all good.
Okay, cool. Well, he was talking about how he was with Mr. Green and one of his very close students, and I just felt a huge sigh of relief when he did that.
Yeah.
And I talked to him and I was like, hey man, we're on the same page. Like I absolutely adore Dr. Cavett and wrote down everything she told me, and I absolutely love this. And when I first told him that, he was like, okay, sure, like yeah, and that was it. And then we got to know each other and started working, and we had like a little leadership camp, and we called sectionals before band camp was scheduled to start.
Yeah.
And most of the kids hadn't heard anything all summer.
Really?
They didn't have a freshman camp because both directors were gone at that point by the
Yeah.
time school was out.
Yeah.
And the fine arts director mentioned something to my percussion director. I was like, well, hey, you could do the freshman camp on your own. He was like, whoa, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to
Yeah.
deal with all the freshmen on my own.
That's a
And
lot.
he's like,
Yeah, that's a lot to
I'll
deal
let the
with.
new band
Yeah.
directors do it. So we did like a week of like just like 8 to 12 sectionals, 2 hours for brass, 2 hours for woodwinds, and brought them out. And we kind of just introduced ourselves to the kids. And I remember looking at my head director and being like, man, this guy talks a lot. And being a little worried. Now I realize, like, oh, he was just building a relationship with the kids.
Yeah.
Because the kids don't care. It didn't matter if we taught the kids how to play or anything, or like, didn't matter how many lip slurs I did on the first day. It mattered that I showed them who I was and had them trust me, and that I was there to help them and do everything I could for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of fun. And then he told me, he goes, hey, I want you to run the marching band. I want you to do everything. He said, you were in drum corps, so you have the most up to date information. And then he goes, well, I had a job before, and I had a young director like you, and I didn't let him do everything because I wanted it done my way. He's like, but that kind of didn't capitalize on all his talents. So he goes, so I
Mm-hmm.
want you to do everything. I was like, okay, all right. So I wrote
Yeah.
my own visual packet and didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was out there, man. It was weird. I was running a basics block, my first time ever. And I'd teched in high school, or teched in college a little bit at a high school.
Yeah.
And so I knew a little bit about how to do that, and I'd
Were
been around the
you
kids,
were
but
you with
I was
the
out there with a lesson plan.
were you with the
Say
group
that again,
that did
sorry.
CTJ?
No,
No,
I
you
was
weren't. I get confused because there are so many people that did work with CTJ over the years, and
yeah, I
I
didn't
forget
like
who
North
did.
Austin area.
That's right. Was it Connolly?
It was Lehmann High School, actually, same as my last name.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
And man, that was really cool too, because they gave me a lot of freedom, because I was teching there for 3 years. So by the third year, they were like, hey, go take the trumpets and do sectionals. Hey, we want you to take this group and work with them. And I really think I built relationships with the kids over the years I was there, and the directors too, and they did a lot to help me out. I mean, they
Yeah.
really, like, I ended up doing an interview with one of them for an assignment, and bothering them, all that kind of stuff. So it was fun.
Right on, man. Okay. So before we get into some of the teaching philosophy stuff, you touched on your time doing drum corps, and I kind of want to talk about that because
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else has marched that I've talked to on the show. And I don't off the top of my head, I don't think it's the marching band's the assistant. I don't know. She's got a weird title. She used to be a middle school director out here, but now she's full-time mom, and she's a private lesson instructor, and she helps out with the marching band at the high school. But she marched Blue Knights back in the early
Cool, dude.
2000s. But I think other than her,
Okay.
you're the only other person that's marched drum corps. So I kind of want to talk. And then of course the kids that I taught at Violet Crown that one of the first people on. Anyways,
Mhm.
how many years did you march?
I marched 2 years, both at the Bluecoats.
Okay. And how did you end up at the Bluecoats, seeing as though like you didn't do the quote unquote normal / right thing where you do like an easier core and then you bump up into like one of those top 5 groups.
Yeah.
Instead, you just kind of balled out and immediately went to that top 5.
Yeah.
What was the
It
what
was
was the
weird, man.
reason? How did you stumble upon that? How did you decide to do that?
Yeah, when I was in high school, we would watch DCI finals as like the leadership team.
Yeah.
And like my director had the DCI fan network thing back when that existed. And so we would watch, DCI finals. And
Yeah.
so we watched 2013 DCI finals. So like that's when Crown won. And they had such a
Yes.
cool show and
Hmm.
a bunch of really cool stuff. And then uh, you know, I don't remember any of the shows from that year, but I remember watching Bluecoats and just being like, "Wow, they sound really good."
Hmm.
And then one of my friends was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go march there next year." I was like, "You are?" And he was like, "Yeah, I wanna march at the Bluecoats." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And so like I already had a positive opinion of them,
Yeah.
and then just listening to the way they sounded, because a lot of other drum corps sound really good,
Hmm.
but I felt like the Bluecoats had a darker sound, and it was I couldn't really explain it, but it
No,
was more appealing to me.
I would agree with that. They definitely, of all the drum corps, I would classify them as the darkest, at least in the top eight.
Yeah,
Maybe Cavaliers. Cavaliers are
yeah.
a little on the
Cavaliers are
dark
really
side.
good, and I mean,
Yeah.
like Crown does all the crazy like technique stuff,
Yeah.
but if you just took a B flat chord from Crown and a B flat chord from Bluecoats and listened to them, there's a difference in sound there, and it's not
Yeah.
it's it's not like you listen to Crown and it's bad. It's just different, and it was more appealing to me. So I was already kind of captivated by that. And then in BMB, there was a trumpet player who had marched Bluecoats in 2013, and
Who was
his
that?
name was Michael. I don't remember his last name, man.
I remember that kid.
Do you
Yeah.
remember?
It was
We're thinking of the same person right
it was
now.
it was, it was a white kid, right? He was a
Yeah,
little chunkier.
yeah, and he was in the trumpet studio.
Yeah. I forgot his name. The dude was really good.
Yeah, his name was Michael. Yeah,
Yeah.
and and he had marched there one year, and so he goes, "Hey, man, I'll help you out, and I'll let you know, whatever you need for the audition." He said, "Let's work on it together." I was like, "Cool." And so he kind of helped me out with that and guided me on the way. And I think we carpooled, and David Whitfield was auditioning there too. And
Mm.
I kind of knew
Yep.
David a little bit because I'd seen him at region auditions in high school because he went to Steel, and so it was like, okay, we got a little group of us who are all going to go audition for Bluecoats together.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. We all need the material, and we at the camp we weren't alone, and so we were there, and it was my first drum corps camp ever, and I had no idea what to expect. And we did all the playing stuff. My face was ready to fall off because I never played that much in my life, and
Yeah.
we did all the marching stuff. And they told me like, "Hey, man, you look a little weak. You need to get some a little more thigh muscle
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that you don't break down." Because we were doing like backwards marching at a 6 to 5 at like 200 beats per minute or something. They were just like, "Yep, let's go,
Just
and let's see what
ball
you can do."
out the first
Yeah, and I
day.
was
Good
I
Lord.
was like,
Okay.
"Oh my god!" And like my mind was blown because they were like, "When you step off, you're gonna bring your horn up, and then when you close your feet, you'll bring your horn down." And I had never done that specific skill set before,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
took
Yeah.
me a few reps, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna not make the cut or anything." And then I played, and I actually did pretty well in the playing because I practiced a lot and
Yeah.
worked really hard on that. And so they said, "Hey, we'll give you a call back," and I was so happy out of my mind because I didn't know what to expect. I thought everybody there was going to just blow me out of the water, and so I was like, man, that's really cool. And so then Michael, the guy who was supposed to be, there helping me, and we were like, yeah, we'll march together. He goes, yeah, well, I'm not going to go to the callback camp. I don't think I'm gonna do it this year. I was like, oh, okay. So it was like
Hmm.
David and I, and we didn't know anybody else, and so we went to the callback camp. And I went there, and they gave us like a really hard etude to learn. I practiced the hell out of it, and they told me my legs looked a little weak, so I did like squats all around my neighborhood. And I'm serious, man. I went on like a
That's
mile
awesome.
walk and just did lunges. That's what it was. I did lunges around the entire neighborhood.
Good Lord.
And when I got home, I was like crawling up the stairs. It was so horrible
Yeah,
because
that's
it's not like I had a workout routine. It was just like, hey, I'm
yeah.
gonna run every day and like kind of get in shape. And
Let me just do squats for a mile. That's a good idea.
it was so Oh man, my thighs were so tight for like 3 days after. It was
Yeah.
horrible. And then
Not surprised.
I just had a good high school marching experience that had kind of prepared me. I mean, obviously drum corps was way more intense, but
Yeah.
I I was just well trained, I guess, from what I'd been used to. And my band director had marched drum corps too, and so he was like, "Well," he would say this phrase a lot. He would go, "When I march drum corps, I would always assume that feedback given to me was for me." I was like, "Okay." So then I already had that kind of mentality. I
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, I'll focus on this, focus on making this happen." And the marching style was very similar too.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, I mean, I got there and did pretty well, I guess, and got contracted. And I was just so happy, and David too. And so we roomed together that summer, and
Nice.
it was a
Okay.
really cool summer. I wish I had been a little more easygoing about things, and
What do you
like
mean?
just kind of. Well, I was really anxious.
Oh, okay.
I was I was anxious that I wasn't good enough. I was anxious that it was a new environment for me, so I didn't really know how things worked.
Yeah.
I would have nightmares leading up to it about like,
Really?
hey, you showed up and you forgot your shoes, you dumbass. And like, and then I was like, oh no, I forgot all I brought was dress shoes. Like, I don't like, and so like I would have these crazy dreams about like, you don't have any shoes, you don't have any, just like crazy stuff. And I asked like five separate people for packing lists, and I
Yeah.
made my own. I was like, okay, I need this. And my mom and I went shopping, and this is, boy, let me tell you about my first day at drum corps. This is just peak Michael Lehman right here. Is epitome
I'm
of like, I'm at the Bluecoats,
ready for
and
it.
I'm really happy to be there. And I somehow stumbled my way into this, and so my mom and I go shopping for all the supplies I need. I have my packing list. It's like, okay, I'm going to buy running shorts, and I'm going to buy, like compression shorts as my underwear, and I'm going to buy like t-shirts to rehearse in. And so I had to pee while we were shopping, right? And this is
Yeah.
important. It seems like a small detail. I had to pee. So I grab a pack of t-shirts. I'm like, cool, white t-shirts, throw them in. I go pee. Don't think about it. I don't think
Yeah.
about it, those shirts, ever until the first day I'm at drum corps. Show up with my big suitcase. Now it's the first day, and they're like, "Hey, you need to wake up at 4:30 a.m. and we're gonna go learn how to line fields in Ohio at like 4:30 a.m. and it's May, so it's still kind of cold."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "All right, I'm gonna wake up at 4:30 a.m. and I'm gonna be ready to go when they tell me I'm ready to go." And so I had Gold Bond, which I'd never used before, and I had my white T-shirts, and I had my running shorts and my compression shorts, and I'd like triple checked my backpack the night before and gone to some veterans and been like, "Hey, can you check my stuff and just make sure?" And I was so worried
Yeah.
that, yeah, I knew I was going to screw something up. Well, I did, and it wasn't horrible, but man, the shirts were child size 6 through 8. And so I put
Mm.
on this tiny shirt that was just super tight, and it didn't even go all the way down to my waist. It like kind of went down to right above my belly button.
Nice
And so
crop
I'm
top.
wearing,
Okay.
now I look really weird. And
Yeah.
like the sleeves were like up to my arm right here, and like you could see, I mean, it was just horrible. It was so tight. And and so I was like, I put it on, and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two is I'd never used Gold Bond before.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know what it did. I was just told, hey, use Gold Bond and like pour a little bit in your pants, and
Yeah.
I didn't know. So I just went in there. So I go in the bathroom, right? I pour the Gold Bond, and it was the powder kind. And so
Yeah.
like it wasn't coming out that much. So I squeezed, and this big lump of Gold Bond goes all over. And I stood there and I went, oh no. And so I went in the bathroom and I like dusted myself off, but there was still a ton of Gold Bond, because it was
Yeah.
on me now. And so I like dusted it. It was like a lump, and I dusted it all off, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. So I'm out there, I'm wearing flip flops for field lining. The field's kind of like wet and squishy,
Yeah.
and we're learning how to do that. And it was fun. And then about an hour into my visual block that morning, I'm nervous. My groin starts burning. And I'm like, what is this feeling? Like, what's going on? I was like, oh, is this what Gold Bond is supposed to do? And it just burned for the rest of the morning. I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. So it burned for the rest of the day until I was able to shower that night. Keep in mind, I'm still wearing my child size 6 through 8 T-shirt, and Dex marched the troopers that summer,
Yeah.
and the Bluecoats took a picture and because they were always posting pictures, and they took a picture of us waiting in line at the food truck. And sure enough, there's everybody else looking like they know what they're doing. And then there's Michael Lehmann standing with a child size 6 through 8 shirt on. And Dex texts me. He goes, "Hey, man, did you get small enough shirts?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm an idiot." So I ended up that night, I was like, "Okay, I'm stupid." So I cut the sides off all my shirts
Yeah.
to where now it was just a thin piece of cloth going down with the collar and the waist.
Yeah.
And so like this, I just completely cut the sleeves off. I wasn't going to try to mess with that.
Yeah.
So, we'd rehearse at like a Christian university. They'd be like, "Hey, you have to wear a shirt." I'd be like, "Okay, I'll wear a shirt." And it was like I'm wearing a washcloth
Yeah.
and shirt equivalent of a loincloth. And so I checked the box, but I definitely got some weird looks. So that's my first day and all the anxiety that came with that. That was
Attaboy.
definitely fun.
And I assume eventually you kind of mellowed out and figured it out as you
Yeah,
went.
second day was easier than the first day for sure. And it got easier from there. And I made some really cool friends along the way. I just was surrounded by people who did really cool things, and everybody had a really good attitude about it. I still think that I probably could have done way better as far
Yeah.
as just being relaxed and being okay with the fact that I was going to make mistakes, and that's why we rehearsed. And I would just kick myself for making stupid mistakes, and I would get so mad. So
Sounds like the Michael Lehman we've all come to know and love.
yep. So
Um, you said this one thing that's kind of always stuck with me about your second year at Blue Coats. And I'm trying to remember like how you said it, but it was something to the effect of um we just all decided to care. And that's like we all decided that like we're gonna like everybody in the core is just gonna try really hard and we're gonna see what happens. And then that
yeah,
ended up being like one of the most successful years of Blue Coats.
yeah,
Um, like, can you talk about kind of how that came about and like who came up with that idea? I mean, that's the idea for like all drum corps in
hmm
one would hope at least is that like yeah, just you're just gonna care about it and then we're gonna do good. But the way you talked about it, it felt different than that just blanket statement. So
yeah. It was
do you remember
it was cool,
how that
man.
happened?
Yeah, when they told us our show concept and showed us the uniforms and the props and everything, we were like, okay, this is pretty cool. But at least I felt like, oh, they're trying to recreate Tilt, like
Yeah.
because that was so popular, and I was like, okay, so I had a little bit of doubt about that. But then when we got to the camps, they were like, hey, yeah, let's do this, and it felt kind of normal. And then we got to spring training, and there was a really positive vibe about the staff,
Yeah.
about the people teaching us, about our section leaders. Not to say anything was different in 2015, but it just felt more positive. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson I learned there is that the best learning environment is positivity.
Hmm.
Is instead of like, hey, you're not doing well enough, try that again. It was like, hey, we can do that a little bit better. What can we do to fix it? Here's what you specifically have to focus on. Like it was good information both years, but it's just a different vibe with the people in my section, with the staff, with the people in other sections. I mean, everybody was really good friends with each other too. Not to say that wasn't the case in 2015, but the vibe was different. And so I think that's where the success came from. I mean,
Okay.
it's not like we actually talked more about the possibility of winning in 2015 when we ended up getting third than we did in 2016 when we won. And I think that's just because we learned to focus on the product instead of the result.
Mm-hmm.
We're just like, hey, let's make our show better today. Let's make our let's let's see if we can be the best version of the Blue Coats there ever has been. Not get the highest score or be better than last year or beat the Blue Devils or something. It was, let's see if we can make our product better. And that was just a really cool vibe that I think I've been trying to recreate at my program.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the kids have a good vibe that I work with. It's really cool.
That's awesome, man.
But that feeling of coming off the field that last time, and I'm gonna send my wife a text here in a second because my parents are on their way over to pick up Christmas gifts. But
Gotcha.
so that feeling of coming off the field for the last time at finals, not when we had found out the score or anything, but finishing the run and moving the multiple 100-pound props off the field, that was always fun. But I started crying. I'm not going to hide it. Like, I started crying because it was the best performance I'd ever had. And
That's
it was
awesome.
just, we all knew, wow, that was the best we've ever done. All the work we've put into it was worth it because we got that product. We didn't know the score yet. We knew the Blue Devils were, I think, ahead of us at that point. And we just were really happy with that. And so we went back and got ready for retreat. And when they announced the Blue Devils at second, we all just like stood there and held hands. And I mean, they zoomed in the camera on my face at one point, and I was crying like a little baby,
Really?
and I made this like really ugly face. And yeah, one of our techs even zoomed in on my face and like screenshot it and tagged me on Facebook. He was like, "Really, Michael Lehmann? Really, you look like that?" And I mean, it was just a really cool. It was really cool to see that hard work feel like that.
Yeah.
Not when they announced our name, but when we performed. And I think that's what it's about. I think it's about having that performance you can be proud of, and that, hey, look how hard we worked and all the cool stuff we did, and how enjoyable a performance this is to watch. And I definitely made some mistakes in that performance.
Yeah.
But it's not like anybody cares. It's an enjoyable performance. That's the number one thing to do.
I can't remember if it was, I think it was just like one of those like day with the Blue Coats videos. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Just there was some weird audio stuff in my headphones.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all good. I think it's just the headphones themselves, not the best. But this video, and it said in one of your texts, and I think it was this year, or maybe it was the year after, he was talking about everybody at this level is going to be good. Everybody at this level is going to be bringing, the best of their abilities to their performance. The deciding factor, and again, I'm paraphrasing, is how long can you keep that going? And that is like, I've been trying to boil that down even more, and I haven't quite figured out how to say it, because that's such a, again, like it's similar to the statement of everybody just decided to be good this year, so we're good. Like, yeah, the the words make perfect sense, but getting that across to your students and getting that, explaining in a way where everybody can understand, I'm still not quite there, and I haven't been able to figure out how to word it. But I mean, that's what those two things are. What it is, like, everybody's got to decide to care, and you've got to decide to care for longer than the other school, than the group, and that's what's going to make you successful with your performance. And
For sure.
yeah, I just, maybe this next year, hopefully when we have a normal marching season, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that I'm able to figure out how to get that point across.
Yeah,
But
man.
that kind of brings us to the next part of it, where you and I are in the similar situation where the program, we are both able to see the top level of what our high schools can be.
Hmm.
And we are just kind of battling with everything that comes with that, and and the difficulties of getting to that final product that you and I see in our heads. And whether it be the fact that we're both young directors, whether the fact that we're both not the head director, or X amount of factors, just struggling with the fact that we see more of what this band can be, and we can't figure out how to make it to the part that we see.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with that?
It's tough, man. It's like, honestly, I mean, on a like big cosmic scale, I start thinking like, okay, if I only have so much time in my career and in my life to be happy with what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I'm not unhappy, but I'm not satisfied. And I'm not, not to steal from Dan Morrison and like his whole happy not satisfied thing, but I'm not unhappy. I don't hate my situation, but I know it could be better. I feel disorganized, and I'm focusing on myself because of that. And of course, there are bigger things that, like, I'd like some new tubas and
Yeah.
and equipment and staffing and the way we work the schedule and big things like that. But we've had some really good people in our band hall to help us out, and I just take their advice and write it down. And I don't read it often enough, but I just try to make sure that I'm always doing my best. Like, everything I'm
Mhm.
doing has a purpose. If I don't like something, I write it down so I'll fix it, or set it up to be fixed, or address it. And sometimes just like telling my kids that I don't like something, some of them change it. And then the culture starts to embrace that.
Mhm.
And I mean, I frequently think like, am I the right person for this program? Am I making enough change? Was the person who was here before me better than me? Um, do I belong here? Like, I always think about that.
Yeah.
But I really, I should just be focusing on like, this is what it could be. Here's the next step. Let's make this one little thing better, and eventually that'll stay better, and then we'll just keep getting better. And
Yeah.
I'm really lucky to have a team around me that we're all on the same page. We all want the same things. We've got some really good stuff going on at our school. We've got some not great things going on at our school that we're aware of and we're going to fix.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good situation to be in. I'm overall really happy with the way things are going. I mean, and part of that is just the positive atmosphere. My head director is really good about that. It's like he'll say like, we get disappointing results at a marching contest, and I go, hey, we have to spin it positive, and talk to everybody about all the hard work we did this season and how we are the best version that of this band that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And it's just taking the small things and making them better, and being happy with the successes you do have, because it's not about, I mean, everybody knows the whole like, oh, are you taking kids from a already really high level to a higher level, or are you starting them at a different level and increasing them? Like, it doesn't really matter. Success is different for every group.
Yeah.
And I know that's a lot of cliche statements in there, but a lot of them are really true.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of things are cliche for a reason, because that's just what they are. Like
Hmm.
they're most of the time they are that cut and dry, and they're that simple of ideas and that simple of statements. And it's there's no need to reinvent the wheel
Yeah.
when things have already been laid out. Um, and I w- ugh, excuse me.
No, you're good.
I told you this is gonna happen. Talk show and I can't talk.
Hey, my time's coming. I'm gonna screw something up or say something dumb. I'm gonna make you
Um,
edit it out.
got guys for that, man. It's all good. I was talking to one of my she plays oboe in the top band, but she marches French horn, marches mellow, and she was one of the section leaders. And we were talking about it, and I told her, I was like, I think we are talking about the fact that I work at the middle schools and I work at the high schools and I'm back and forth and blah, blah, blah. And I told her, I was like, yeah, I think the last thing I'm gonna do is do middle school before I retire. And she was like, really? Like, you're not gonna do high school your entire time? You're like you care so much about it? And I was like, yeah, I do. And that's why I'm not gonna do it forever. Like, I just can't physically do this for 20 years. Like,
Yeah.
it even on a good year, like a part of me dies. Like, there's so much time and thoughts and energy put into each year that I can't. And like the amount of energy that I invest into my students and the amount of energy I invest into making sure that the product that they're putting forth is good, and that I did everything that I could to make sure that they are successful and that they feel successful, um that takes it out of you. And I can't do that until I retire. um do you feel the same way?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely love working with this age group and doing all the crazy things we have to do, and it's just really fun.
Yeah.
I have thought about, we have a lot of options. We're young and we could literally do anything. I've thought about when I move back to San Antonio eventually, um, taking a middle school job, and it would definitely help me learn how to teach the instruments better.
Yeah.
And, there are a lot of benefits from that. I've also been told, hey, you have to stay with high school because you're good at it. like I've been told that. I've been told it's better to go to middle school and learn how to teach the instruments. I mean, like, I think Dr. Cavett definitely encouraged that. Um, if you don't mind, I'm not sure if we can like put this on a pause for a
Yeah,
second
I
because my
think we
parents
can.
are here to pick up presents.
Yeah, we could pause it.
So I'm gonna give them these presents and then I'll be back in a
Yeah,
second.
you're
Is that
good.
okay?
And we're back. Mm. So we
Cool.
were briefly
Thank you.
talking
I
about.
appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's all good, dude. Of course, deal with your family. I know what's going on with you briefly, so it is what it is. But we were talking about the option of staying at high school, ending up in middle school, um, how high school is affecting you emotionally, personally, and all that. So yeah, if you want to continue, by all means.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've gotten more efficient this year, man.
Yeah,
Like
you think so?
learning how to kind of balance, yeah, balancing time off and the importance of it, and actually spending time with my wife and taking time for myself to play video games. And I felt guilty about it at first,
Yeah,
but just realizing that, hey, I don't need to do this silly little task that's not really going to have a benefit. Or I could do that at a different time if I'm more efficient during the day. Or I could
yeah,
even reassign this to like have some of my student leadership do this and delegate a little bit, and then just being really efficient with things. I still do work on the weekends and stuff, and I have my Saturdays where I do mostly work, but it's been better than in the past, and I
yeah,
haven't felt as burnt out. I don't think. Um, I think the middle school thing's definitely an idea. I just don't know if it's the best thing to do middle school because it's less workload. Maybe do middle school because like, hey, I don't know. I don't know how to frame that. Like
it
it
feels.
fit because it fits my life more. It's more sustainable.
Yeah, I mean
I
that's what it
still get to
is.
do what
Yeah,
yeah,
but there is this level of guilt when you say something like that out loud, where it's like,
yeah.
it's I'm I'm gonna do middle school because it makes my life easier, and that
But
feels
why is
like,
that? Why do you feel guilty for wanting your life
yeah,
to be easier?
exactly. There's this weird.
That's wrong, dude.
I know, and I can't. I'm trying to
There's the
figure out.
culture among band directors. I am so guilty of this.
Yeah.
There's a culture that if you're not working all the time and telling everybody how tired you are and talking about how much you work on the weekends and at night and how late you stay there and how much you sacrifice for your job, that you're not good. And
Yeah.
it's not just like, oh, you're not working hard, but it's like you are a bad band director if you do that. At
Yeah.
least that's the vibe I get from some people. It's not like I've had band directors tell me that, but it's that kind of culture around a lot of band directors that's
That's almost
unhealthy.
unspoken, where it's like, unless you're
Yeah.
working 80 hours a week, you're not a good band director. And it's just like,
Yeah.
but then also there's like, that's this unspoken rule, but then there's also this confusion on why directors burn out in plus minus 5 years. It's like,
Yeah.
no
So
one's able to
yes, it's a
put,
hard job.
no one's able to
Yes, it
put two and two
requires a
together.
lot. Yeah. But it's finding that balance, man. And I think
Yeah.
it was kind of stupid whenever I took my interview where I'm teaching now. He said, what is your biggest goal in 5 years? And I said, I really want to be a better teacher, and I know I'm going to improve because I'm going to be surrounded by good people, and I'm going to listen to all the feedback I'm given. And I said, but really, probably the biggest goal is I want to learn how to balance work and life. And my fine arts director kind of laughed. He didn't laugh at me, but he said, okay, well, when you figure that out, let me know. And it's just kind of like, I mean, it's true though, because
Yeah.
it's such a culture of doing things that way. I mean, I don't know if you have you heard the any podcast ever with Rob Chilton on it.
Can't say that I have.
He's a band director that won an honor band. I think he's from the Dallas Fort Worth area,
Okay.
and I don't remember what school he teaches at. But he talks about how he has completely structured his life to where he hasn't burned out because he takes a little. It's not less time, but he's just more efficient.
Yeah.
And he talked about how he, he has to stay for concerts and stuff, but when sectionals are done, he goes home. And then instead of doing everything at night, he wakes up early in the morning. So he'll get up at like 4 a.m.
Mm.
and, do things for his lifestyle and like eat breakfast. And then he has a couple hours at home just to sit and read emails and do work preparing for the day. And then he goes to work and teaches all day. And then whenever he's done teaching, he goes home and has a couple hours to spend with his wife. And I think he said he had dogs or something, but like that's a really healthy option. Now that wouldn't work for me because I have to get up at 5:30 anyway. So it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm gonna wake up at 2:30 and like go run and then sit at my computer for a couple hours, then leave. But
Yeah.
him having that system and talking about how like just his mindset was really cool. I encourage you to check it out because
Okay. What was his name again?
Rob Chilton.
Okay.
And I listened to him on the Program Notes podcast that Dr. Dennis
I don't know
puts.
why I haven't started listening to that one yet. I need
It's
to.
it's really good. Some episodes are more chock full of information than others, but there's a lot of really good stuff on there. And
Yeah.
and especially those episodes. I think it's like split up into multiple parts. And so I listen to that on the way to work. I just pop on a podcast episode and listen to it. But
Nice. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, that's it's the great secret. And
yeah,
a few people have figured it out, and a lot of people have quit, and a lot of people have just kind of accepted that they're not gonna, that they'd rather keep teaching at an 8 than to be balling out at that 10 for a couple
yeah,
years and then burning themselves out. And that's definitely something that I found out this year, where just kind of take some steps back and like really just take it one step at a time instead of thinking grandiose and thinking like big picture and trying to change the world. Just
yeah. Well, you're a better teacher too if you're not pissy the whole time.
yeah.
Like, if you come back to work the next day, you're like, hey, man, I played video games with my friends last night and I am energized and I'm ready to go. And then I mean, just that positive attitude is
Yeah.
way more important than like, Oh, I honestly had this attitude a couple times my first year where I would just keep repeating to myself, like, the amount of stuff I do for these kids, and like they don't even appreciate it. They won't take their horns home in practice. Like, what is wrong with me? I'm doing this to myself.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to relax. And so I think there's been a change now to where, the most fun thing for me is playing video games with my friends.
Yeah.
And so, I'll come home and I'll play Fortnite with you guys, or I'll play Dota with Roseman, and I won't think about band for a while, and I'll just kind of turn my brain off. And then I'll wake up the next morning and go to work, and I'll have a good attitude. And I'll
Yeah.
just start off the day by saying hello to each one of my students, and encouraging them, and telling each one of them to have a great day. That's just I'm a better influence on them that way than if I show up to work and I'm all like, well, I've got all this stuff to do and my band's not good enough because I'm not good enough, and I'm just like sulking the whole time. And the only thing there is attitude.
Yeah. Again, simple idea, hard execution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting better at it though. I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've noticed. I haven't, I still do a lot of the stuff I learned in college and from Dr. Cavett about, like, hey, let's let's raise our tongue whenever we try to slur higher, or use faster air, and that kind of stuff. But I have a better understanding of how to communicate with my students, which you can't learn unless you're communicating with students. And you know what this pandemic has taught me too? Is how to be understanding, and how to be
Mm.
creative with working with kids. I mean, I got on the phone and called a kid's manager the other day at
Really
Whataburger, because
nice.
they told him, hey, you have to work when we have a marching rehearsal. I said, okay, well, did you tell him? He said, yeah, I told him, but they wouldn't listen to me, and they told me I still had to work. I said, okay, well, I'll call him. And I could have gotten pissed at the kid and been like, what was wrong with you? And whenever I finished the conversation, I said, well, hey, make your parents do that instead of me doing that next time, so I don't have to spend time doing that. But it was overall a positive experience from the kid. He watched me call his manager and tell him respectfully all the information about what's going on, and that if he's involved in an activity, then he needs to be there and respect his schedule wishes. And I mean, and then just kids telling me like, hey, I'm not able to be there because my family this, or like getting some sort of parent contact. Like, I'm not being a pushover, and I'm doing my best to help them out. But I'm also saying stuff like, if there's anything we can do to help you out, let us know. And
Yeah.
then if they do say, hey, I need something, actually helping them out, and trying to be positive and encouraging to them and help their family out. Like, some people are like, we have kids who are just like, yeah, I have a family emergency. And so sometimes family emergency means, we have a birthday party and we went to that. And so whenever we find that out, we call the parent. We're like, hey, if everybody did what you did, we wouldn't have a marching band. And just kind of talk to them and say, hey, it's really important that they're here. And sometimes you make sacrifices for the group, and be really respectful about that. Sometimes family emergency means like, we don't have money and I have to work. And so like, we're going to figure that out. And so like, we get a sponsor for the kids' band fees and try to help them out however we can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't, I was horrible about that, man. Prior to this year, I made kids sign an attendance agreement, which isn't a bad thing, and I'll probably go back to it. But I would copy paste this long email to everybody who missed any rehearsal, and it was like, it's crucial to the success of the group that every kid attend every rehearsal, and like all this stuff. And I spent a ton of time just getting kids to rehearsal, which is important, but
Yeah.
I wasn't understanding. I was kind of a jerk about it, and it didn't lead to good relationships and kids wanting it. I mean, it wasn't a
Yeah.
positive environment. Who wants to be in that?
And we are the same. We do the same thing, and send out like just blanket email. Your kid was not here at attendance for football game, for rehearsal. It will affect their uh spot on the show fields for the football game if they uh it ends up being an unexcused absence. But then we tell them, it's just like, yo, if you just tell us what's going on, we'll be straight. But you
Yes.
got to tell us what's going on. And that there's a lot of kids that are just like, yo, like I they're like my seniors, so like I know their home life, and they're just like, yo, and they'll tell me like, yeah, I'm gonna be here as much as I can, but if I gotta go to work, like that means I like actually have to go to work. I'm like, all right, cool, man. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
like they'll call me and be like, dude, I gotta go in. I'm like, did you try like getting it covered or what's up? And they'll be like, yeah, I tried. I can't. I need to do this, blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, man. Uh hope hope we get figured out. If you need any help, let me know. We'll talk about what you missed tomorrow. And
Yeah.
those kids figured out, and those kids, I have those really good relationships, but then that's just such a hard thing to instill into like a freshman
Yeah.
who doesn't get it out the gate. Like the first year I was with these kids, they didn't quite get it. But now that they're seniors, we've been together for 3 years,
Hmm.
they know what's up. But these freshmen where it's just like, hey man, you just tell me what's going on and we'll be straight. And they'll just be like, uh, what? What do you mean
They
tell
don't know
you
how to
what's going on?
communicate
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. And just
Yeah.
like that's it's probably one of the most frustrating things because you can't just like tell them what that means. Like they just have to like figure figure out what that means. And that just comes with time.
We teach so much more than just band, man. We've got to. I mean, sometimes you got to sit down with the kid and show them how to send an email, and
Yeah.
be like, hey, here's how you send a respectful email. And yes, it's okay to email me about a problem you're having, and it's my job to help you out, and I'm okay to do it, to do that. You know what quote has stuck with me?
Hmm.
Mr. Green, and Mr. Green would come out to our band hall and was like a really big influence on my head director, and obviously big influence on Dr. Cavett, and so there to us. But he would say frustration is the inability to find a creative solution. And
Hmm.
so it's just like, wow, I'm frustrated right now. How can I be more open-minded and find a creative solution? And that it doesn't work for everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's healthy to be frustrated sometimes because you've tried everything and it hasn't worked out. But if that makes you look at another opportunity to find a creative solution, that has really helped me be more patient and creative with getting kids to rehearsal or whatever, and
Hmm.
doing whatever we can to help them out. And it's more of that positive environment stuff. It's
Yeah,
like,
man.
don't get frustrated, find a creative solution, let us help you out, and we'll do it. So that's
Yeah.
been a big lesson for me.
It's it has been a struggle to find the goods that has come from this year, but all the good that I found has been really beneficial to some
Yeah, man.
long-term stuff. And for that I am grateful. And as weird as it says, it's like again, it feels dirty saying I'm grateful for the things that's happened this year because there's been so many things that have gone wrong this year.
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, there's been some positives uh internally, emotionally, mentally, physically, that have come from this year. And I don't think they would have come as easy or
Mhm.
as necessary in any other situation.
Yeah. I
So
mean, people basically, it's just an environment where people are challenged to rise through their circumstances and work hard and have a good attitude to get out of whatever's going on.
yeah.
I don't mean that in a toxic positivity way. I mean that in like, some people have just done really well for themselves and of course have been not as affected by some of the stuff that's going on. I mean, even if you have been affected, there are some people that have come out stronger or will come out stronger by the end of it.
Yeah. And it's just been our job to make that happen, is to find the ways to get stronger through this. And it sounds like you've been successful on that. I hope that I've been successful on that. Um, you know, and it's also this dirty thing where it's like we won't know the outcomes of this year until 4 years down the road,
Yeah.
which is super like anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see, man. We'll see how this all plays out, and hopefully things come back to some normality sooner than later.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate you coming on, dog. I really do. Do you have any final thoughts, quotes, words of wisdom, shout outs,
Oh man.
thoughts for the kids, anything to round out the end of the show?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to everybody who's helped make me the person I am today. I mean, I just, I hadn't thought about a lot of the stuff we talked about in a long time. We
Yeah.
just talked about like what my relationship with my wife, talked about school and how I got there, blue coats and how I got there. And the common theme there is like I've just been around some really great people, and I've been really fortunate to be in those situations. So
Yeah.
I'm just really thankful after talking with you about this.
Yeah, man. Gratitude is something that isn't practiced enough, and you have to constantly be mindful of. And that is something that's nice about doing these shows is you're just kind of reminded of little things like that, like you just talked about. But
Yeah. My grandfather says every time you ask him how he is, he'll say grateful. And I kind of started picking that up. And I even when I started, I was just kind of saying it
yeah,
because I was just giving myself a reminder. But then I started realizing like, yeah, I am grateful, and it's a better response than, oh, I'm okay, or like I'm good. How are you? And like because usually that's just a default, like you're
yeah,
like living the dream when on the inside you're like burning. But grateful has changed my mindset to where I'm actually more grateful for things.
yeah.
And even if it's just saying it, like I am grateful, and forcing yourself to say it when things aren't going well. So
I try to mine that I try to do is I say I'm living well because the base level I I ain't got that much to complain about, man. Got a good job, had a good place, family's healthy, I'm healthy, uh, can pay for all my bills. I'm not really worried about too many big issues. I'm living well.
yeah,
Really,
that's
yeah.
absolutely the truth.
So, hey, brother, I really appreciate you stepping in last minute. I know I just kind of popped it out there with this break and people testing positive throughout my schedule kind of got thrown up for a loop. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
jumping on as
Hey,
quickly as you did.
thanks for the invite, and thanks for talking to me for so long. And that was a lot of
Absolutely, man.
fun.
Yeah, dude, it was. And hopefully one day you can come in person and we could do this in my studio as opposed to over Zoom.
Yes,
And
we're gonna have so many when all this is over. We're gonna have so many gatherings. It's gonna be great.
yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to touch people's faces again and
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
and give out hugs and all that. And again, hopefully that is coming sooner than later. But to you, I appreciate you, big dog. For everybody that stayed with us all the way into the end, thank y'all very much for rolling with us all the way. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And Senor, you be easy. Everybody at home, be easy. Peace.
Adios. Thanks, man.